This word problem here has Maya investing $12,000 and she's not going to invest it all into one thing. Okay, part of it she's going to invest in a savings bond and that pays 8% per annum, in other words, per year. And the rest of it she's going to put in a GIC, which pays 9% per annum. GIC standing for Guaranteed Investment Certificate. So, the way I like to see this, just before I read on, she has in her possession a lot of money, 12 grand, and part of it is going to go to one thing and part of it is going to go to something else. So one of it's going to be a bond and another part's going to go to a GIC. Now after 1 year, she earns $1,043 in terms of interest. Okay, so leaving it in these investments will give her this much money back. So the question is, how much did she put in the bond and how much did she put in the GIC? So question mark, question mark. Notice how I labeled them with variables x and y because that is precisely how we are going to define our variables. We're going to let x represent the amount invested in the bond and y represent the amount invested in the GIC. So let's write that out. Okay, let x represent the amount invested in the bond. So invested in bond, and y, bond, and I'm going to let y represent the amount invested in the GIC. So just copy this, paste it again, because we're changing very little. And over here, I'm going to just erase the x and erase the bond and put y in GIC. So there we have it. Those are our x and y values defined, and now we want to come up with our equations. So the most basic equation, the easiest of the two, is that I know if I add up these investment amounts, I get $12,000. Okay, because that's the sum she started with. Now in terms of the interest, well, how do I calculate 8% of x value, let's say? That's the value, amount of money invested in the bond. Well, I go 0.08 because I convert that percent into a decimal form, and then I add to it 9% per annum, which is 0.09, and that's y, and I know that's equal to 1043. So those are my two equations. I'm going to solve, probably in this case, substitution is my best bet. So I'm going to rearrange this equation so that I have y isolated, and that gives me y equals 12,000 minus x. And I'm going to substitute that into equation number 2. So here's what I get. I get 0.08 x plus 0.09, but instead of y, I'm going to write 12,000 minus x, and that's equal to 1043. And if I multiply this out, what do I get? Well, I get 0.08 x plus 1080. That's the 0.9 times 12,000. And then I subtract 0.09x, and that's equal to 1043. Now I can start bringing my variables together, collecting like terms, bringing my constants together. And let's start with the 0.8 and the 0.9. That leaves me with negative 0.01x. And then if I bring the 1080 over, that will leave me with 1043. It'll leave me with negative 300. No, negative 37. That's right. And now I can divide, because that will give me negative 370. So divide both sides by negative 0.01, negative 0.01, cancel, cancel, and my X amount is 370. So that's how much money was invested in the bond, which means the rest of it was invested in the GIC. And how I get that is I just subtract my 370 from the 12,000, or plug it into this equation, which is essentially doing the same thing. So my Y value is going to be Y equals 12,000 minus 370, which is $11,630. So there is your amount invested in the GIC, and over here we have the amount invested in the bond, and we'll put that in dollars.